Hey there, Bob.
Hey, Kimmy.
All right, so we're doing something new. We have decided to take our podcast to the video realm. We're going to put this on YouTube. At least that's the intent. So, um, I love that you came in your hiking hat. You've got to share with why you have that hiking hat.
Well, as you know, for Halloween this year, I was a hiker. And it was so perfect because I have all the things. Of course, I bought this hat especially for it, but I was so comfortable. And the kids know that I love to hike. So they're already, very inquisitive about it. They're curious as to what I wear and what I do. So I wore my boots, I wore my leggings, and I wore my hiking t-shirt that you blessed me with. And I found this cap. You and I actually found it together on Amazon. And
While we
the
were on a hike.
yeah, and so it matches my t-shirt that I wore that day. Took my trekking pose, wore my hiking boots. Maybe I already said that, but I was so comfortable. And oh, and I wore my camelback, so that was pretty cool. And the only thing is, nobody noticed the bob on the back.
I
I
was just
thought,
about to ask, did they see that it said Bob?
no, nobody asked, and that would have been something that my first graders could have read. And some of my kindergartners, if they would have tried hard, could have probably sounded it out. But I'm like, what the heck? Nobody's asking, why does your backpack say Bob? But
I,
it was fun.
I guess they weren't that observant. So I wanted to get comfortable here. I've got my DPZ, so and I've got my water bottle. So hopefully we can get through it before I need a bathroom break. But this is so different from sitting in the middle of a park and not being on video. But today we're going to talk about a holiday survival strategy. And you and I have done this together kind of the last couple of years, but we haven't actually done a specific podcast about it.
Okay. Yeah, I
So,
knew we'd talked about it off and on, but did not realize we didn't do one specifically about it. But hey, it's November 1st. I sent you that meme the other day and I kept seeing them everywhere. I even found some better ones, but I didn't want to overdo. So I didn't send you another one or two or three. But, it's like October 31st, Halloween, and November 1st, Merry Christmas. So
yeah.
it's like, here we are. It's November 1st and people have all the Halloween candy around. And I think they're starting to feel like, okay, this is the holiday season. So it's perfect timing for this podcast.
I agree. And one thing that helps me at Halloween is the fact that we live out in the country like you do. So nobody comes and knocks on our
Mhm.
door asking for candy, so I don't have to load it in. But it becomes a time of year where it does become a struggle, and you want to stay with your wellness program. You want to preserve your progress. And so, you know how I like alliteration? So, our purpose in this is to either help you to, still focus on your faith, fitness, and fat loss, or your progress protection propelled by practical planning.
I love that. Got all the F's and all the P's.
But we want to maintain stuff, but we don't want to drive ourselves crazy through the
Right.
holidays, which I have definitely done before. But in Proverbs 21:5, it says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance."
Hmm.
And hopefully, not an abundance of weight gain, but an abundance of self control, peace, the different fruit of the Spirit that we need as we go through the holidays. And I want to be clear, this is not about deprivation, because you and I have both done plenty of holiday seasons where there was a lot of deprivation.
Hmm. Yeah, we
And
both have.
it's no fun to do that. So, um, if you would, Bob, tell us the story about last year, because last year you approached the holiday season very, very differently. And, by your own testimony,
Hmm.
it was one of the best holiday seasons that you've had. And you felt, I think, more in control than ever and more peaceful. So,
Yes.
how did you accomplish that? What did you do?
Well, this past year, rather than do one extreme or the other, which that's what I feel like I've been known for, at least that's that's the way I've always seen myself is, you and I've talked about it, all or nothing. So my past holiday seasons, I would find myself either just trying to white knuckle through and basically be miserable because, I was going to be strict or, I just was. No matter what, I was going to be very strict with my eating and didn't allow myself some indulgences, or that was a plan anyway, but it would backfire on me. What would happen would be I would end up saying, this is too hard, forget this mess. Everybody else is eating, drinking, being merry, and I'm over here wallowing in my sorrow. Christmas comes but once a year, that kind of thing. And I would end up gaining weight because I would overeat. I would just give it this, and I'd usually make myself sick, like at least at night. And I've talked so often about going to bed at night during the holidays, and your heart's beating out of your chest because you ate too much sugar, and you feel sick to your stomach, and you just feel horrible. But somehow or another, the next day, I'd get over that, and I'd go again and be like, yeah, again, just this. The holidays go so quickly. I'm going to enjoy them while they're here. But I would typically have at least 5 to 10 pounds to lose in January on top of what I was trying to lose prior to the holidays. But last year I decided that I was going to go for more of a maintenance approach. You and I talked a whole lot about protecting our progress, and that really resonated with me because I realized what a victory that is to protect your progress that you've made. And so I was determined that last holiday season, I would have controlled amounts of some delicious traditional holiday foods that I don't have other times during the year, but that I was not going to start the new year with extra pounds. And I tracked because you and I have realized through trial and error over the years that it's good for us to have some kind of boundaries, and we benefit from tracking. And I did track, but I allowed myself to have more of a maintenance level. Like I was upwards like around 2,000 calories a day. And I actually went down a little bit during that time. I mean, I didn't like lose a lot of weight or anything, but the scale was totally my friend, and I did not gain anything. And I felt so peaceful. And it was the best holiday season ever. I mean, I just was like, I love this because I would maybe like at Thanksgiving, I remember having one piece of pumpkin pie and nothing else. Whereas in the past, I would have maybe have tried it all and just felt sick afterwards. Oh, it was wonderful. That's what I'm doing this year. That's got to be God's way. It's a way to go.
Yeah, and the key is you said one piece of pumpkin pie and that was it as kind of your indulgence. And the thing is, you could have had, a couple bites of multiple things, but in the past, we would have had, I'm gonna have a whole piece of the pumpkin pie, a whole piece of the pecan pie, a whole piece of,
Yeah,
whatever else is
yeah,
there. Instead of it dawning on us that, you know what, you don't have to have the whole thing.
yeah.
That's just anathema to us. And I was in a workshop this morning and I was sharing my donut math because I've been practicing kind of interacting with the foods that have been my traditional binge foods that the joke has been for years that I'm stressed out, I need a dozen cream filled donuts right about now. And not that I've ever eaten a dozen in one day, but I've had 5 or 6. And I would deprive myself until I'm like, I cannot go without having a donut anymore. Not that that was actually true, but you know that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Then I would order a bunch of them because I'm not going to have these for a long time, so I
Yeah.
get it out of my system.
Mm-hmm.
And it is such a messed up way of thinking, but it seems so natural and normal because of kind of the 43 years of conditioning I'd had with dieting. But my donut math this morning, I think it resonated with a lot of people in the workshop because I pointed out any of us could work in a donut. in our week, and it'd still be a great week, still be a week where you could lose weight, where you nourished your body, where you lived in a healthy way, but you had a donut. Versus I have these times every 3 to 4 months where I'll eat 5 donuts at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
in a year, I'm eating, binge eating, I'm doing 15 to 20 donuts in a year, or I could have 52 donuts in a year, actually enjoy donuts more, and the donuts not have a negative impact on me.
And when you think about it, I think when we know it's being a glutton when we overeat on anything.
Hmm.
And so, and we know what God's word says about gluttony. So we're not letting the we're not letting the flesh give into sinful nature either by doing it one time a week.
Right. And so it's not harming us. And that, I mean, that's the thing with sin. In the workshop, I just spent like 4 weeks talking about sin, and it's just what keeps us from God's best for us. Sin steals
Mhm.
from us. And so instead of having 52 donuts in a year, enjoying them in a healthy way, where I have a good relationship with food, where I'm controlling it instead of it controlling me,
Mhm.
I would get in that all or nothing place where I'm going to have however much I can stuff in my face in the short period of time, because I act like I'm never going to have it again.
Yeah.
But it's
I've so
like,
been
who's
there.
keeping me from having it? Uh,
Mhm.
it's that bad relationship with food. It's that mindset. And some people, like, this isn't something I've struggled with in quite a few years. I'm more referencing, a time past. There are still the draw sometimes, but I have been practicing, instead of completely abstaining from having some of those things, like if it's Tuesday and I want a donut, I can go have a donut. And I did that not too long ago. And did I want another one immediately? Yes. But when I paused afterward, and I really went to a place of kind of thanksgiving and gratitude about it, I'm like, God, thank you that I was able to enjoy that donut, and help me to be satisfied with that.
Mhm.
And I timed it where I couldn't go back because it was right at the time that the donut shop was closing. But even if it was open, I wouldn't have gone back, because there was something in that feeling, that
Mhm.
empowerment of operating by the Spirit, and having that self control muscle get flexed, if you will.
Mhm.
So it really is something that we can practice. And um, we don't have to be miserable. We just have to be mindful of how we approach these things. And part
Mhm.
of it is kind of preparing for the season. And that's why we want to have this conversation today,
Right.
to encourage people to really prepare themselves. I think one place to start is spiritually.
Mhm.
Get spiritually prepared. So, what would that look like for you, or what's it going to look like this year?
Well, I think for me, I'm going to need to make sure that I take time to stay in the Word because during the holiday season, because I feel like I'm a busy person. I mean, I have some downtime, but we stay pretty busy with Dale pastoring a church, and I'm a school teacher, and just busy with grandkids, just coming, going to and fro. It feels like sometimes, and so the holidays are even busier because you do all those things, but then there's extra things. And so I think just making sure I carve out time to stay in the Word and to pray, not only for the usual things that I would pray about, but to pray specifically about keeping the joy in the holidays, and not letting overindulging or stress, not letting that take away the freedom that we can have in Christ during this special time of the year. So really just keeping up those spiritual disciplines, I think, are going to be really important for me. Just making sure that, because sometimes things get, lost in the shuffle, and those things cannot. Those
Yeah.
have to be, like I can't not have time for that.
Yeah, I agree. I need to have that time in the Word to just kind of get my mind set.
Hmm.
And there are days I read the Word that I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. But I know the word does what it says it will do. It never returns void. And it's going to change something in me, even if I'm not having an aha moment, even if it doesn't particularly resonate with me that day. Getting the word in us is always going to change us, improve us. That's how we have that mind renewal that brings lasting transformation. It's one thing to change our behavior, but I don't want to be that tempest in a teacup still on the inside, because I can have my behavior in check, but everything just be in turmoil internally. And the more I'm in the Word, the less that happens. And being thankful and kind of putting my focus on eating and drinking as unto the Lord, it helps me in those moments, especially in the holiday, to have a moment of pause. So instead of depriving myself of those decadent things, I pause and I'm like, God, help me to be satisfied with an amount that is helpful for me. And notice I didn't say healthy, I said helpful, because I don't know that fudge is actually healthy, but it can be helpful in living a healthy life. And there's no, I'm a wizard when it comes to doing alternative baking and candy making and stuff like that, but fudge needs to be fudge. It's got to have sugar, it's got to have butter, and it's got to have the marshmallow fluff. So, there are things that I am going to interact with that my flesh wants to just eat them endlessly. But it's not about the food, it's about that behavior of just eating and eating and eating until I've had so much that I feel miserable and then shameful and all kinds of other ways. So I try to think about that. I'm like, I don't want that to be the reality. I want to enjoy the fudge or for you the pie, but I want to be on the other side of that and be happy about what I just did. I don't want to feel guilty about it. I don't want to push it to that point of gluttony. So I've got a plan in place, and for me, it's that pause to, okay, God, I thank you. I thank you for the fudge. I thank you that I can taste it. And not to over spiritualize this, because I don't want to sound, hokey or corny, but for me, it's just that moment of pause that gives me that interrupt so I don't just dive in head first without any kind of thought.
Yeah, because sometimes, I know this has happened to me when I dive in without any kind of thought or, without that moment to communicate with the Father, I can find myself in an eating frenzy. That's what I always called it. It's like you're like giving it this, and it's like, oh my, it's like you dive in, and all of a sudden you're not coming up above water, and you're, just floundering, and it's like you're being in an eating frenzy. It's not good.
Yeah. So, what is it that you think it is that tends to throw us off during the holidays? What is so different that, what are the common struggles that come up? You and I, I'm coming up on a decade of health and wellness coaching. You had over 3 decades under your belt. So, we have heard and seen it all. But what are some of the most common struggles that you can think of that people are going to be dealing with?
Well, I think stress, just from being so busy, trying to, have your house look perfect and fix all the things that your family loves this time of year, trying to make it to all the social events, buying everybody the perfect gift, not getting enough rest, not eating your usual healthy way. All that can produce stress. And part of the stress too for us that are into health and wellness is, that everywhere you go, they're offering you food.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the bank, church situations, there's going to be food. Teachers' lounge at school, there's going to be extra food. And there's just so many pressures on us. And then sometimes families, there's the dynamic within families is stress producing sometimes. Aunt Mary doesn't get along with Uncle Tom. And so, you're trying to keep peace, and, it's just, and it can be an emotional time. And plus, if you are strapped financially, that's stress producing. So I think just stress and emotion, just being busy, I think it's all just tied up
Yeah,
together. What do you think?
definitely that emotional trigger.
Hmm.
And you mentioned stress and fatigue can be part of it. For a lot of people, it can be loneliness or grief.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The holidays can produce a lot of that, and kind of combined with that nostalgia. So you can have some kind of grief type nostalgia
Yeah,
where, yeah,
like like missing mama.
yeah, like you missing your mom, or
Yeah.
yeah, this is going to be my first Christmas without my uncle who passed earlier this year. So thinking about the people who aren't there, or having nostalgia over certain foods. There
Mm-hmm.
are some things we eat just because of the nostalgia of it. And then,
Like your mom's divinity, right?
I love that though, actually. But yeah, there's nostalgia involved with that for sure. Um, and yeah, that's the thing that Nana makes, and all the grandkids think of her doing that. And I have fond memories of sitting in her dinette area when my grandfather was still alive, and all the great grandkids for him, all the great grandkids were around him, and they all had a big spoonful of hot divinity. So yeah, it makes those foods even more of a draw, and so sometimes it can trip us up. And like you mentioned, the overabundance of being a school teacher, you're faced with it. In offices, people are faced with it. So, and definitely at the church potlucks, I dodged one on Wednesday because it was already starting with all of the Halloween candy and cake and stuff like that. And then you mentioned social pressures. That can be another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that applies when you go to any kind of party or event. Thankfully, the only party on my, actual party that's going to probably be on my calendar will be with other Weight Watcher coaches. So I think most of those people are going to be a little bit more focused on being mindful of
That will be helpful.
staying the course.
Yeah, that will be helpful. Yeah, and really, I used to joke about having WW on my forehead because it's like around our small town where I live in Henrietta, I've you know become known as the Weight Watchers lady, and not so much now because I have disconnected from Weight Watchers, but um, I think that like I signed up for our church holiday meal the on Wednesday night. There's a big sign up sheet in our foyer, and I signed up to bring vegetables and salad. And I thought, and it's going to be November 15th. We always do like a Thanksgiving Christmas meal together instead of doing two separate ones. We just do one holiday meal. But I thought to myself when I signed up, I thought that's so like me to sign up to bring vegetables and a salad. But I always taught members, and Weight Watchers taught me, when you're going to something where you're asked to bring something, you want to bring something that's going to serve you well and will be healthy for others to enjoy. And hopefully people appreciate vegetables where there's so many calorie laden rich foods at the dinner. But it's like I feel like people expect me to eat light or to make good choices, because sometimes they're like, oh, let me see what's on your plate. So that can help, that can put pressure on us too. But you said being with the Weight Watchers would make it easier on you,
Right.
because so that kind of has helped me over the years when I feel like somebody will be watching. It's been crazy though. I remember one time I had some friends over for a holiday meal, and I planned what I was going to put in my mouth while they were here. I was so good and just felt so good about myself, but the minute they left, I went to the kitchen and I ate all the things that they enjoyed that I didn't let myself have. that didn't go well. I needed to plan to have a little bit and be satisfied, like we've been talking about.
Yeah, we've got to find that place of balance. And it goes back to what you were talking about, that all or nothing. That
Mhm.
has been the thing that has tripped both of us up. And it's from decades of being programmed to think in a certain way about food. And we both grew up in a time where it was about deprivation. We grew up in a time where you ate, I mean, the doctor would hand you a diet and it would be
Oh
800,
yeah.
1,000 calories a day. And there were
Hmm.
only certain things that you could eat, and anything else, you were being bad and you didn't deserve to eat it because you're overweight. And so we want to get away from that because nobody has ever been successful with that. You and I have watched so many people fail over and over through the years. We have experienced that ourselves. And it's not that we failed, it's that the information failed us because we would adhere to it. We would do what we were told, but it did not produce the outcomes that we wanted. And in fact, in some ways, caused more problems. I was never a binge eater until I was a dieter. So
Hmm.
I'm trying to back away from that. And, you know, I haven't done the binge eating in quite some time, but it doesn't mean the draw to do it isn't still there sometimes. But it's lessened over the years because of having more awareness, giving myself more permission to have things,
Yeah.
and disconnecting from that old identity of,
Hmm.
the food is good or bad, it's healthy or unhealthy. And that's why I've moved to this idea of it being helpful.
Hmm.
Is it helpful to me? Sometimes it's helpful to me to go and have maybe 3 or 4 pieces of pizza that I work into my day. Is it healthy? I don't care. It's helpful
Hmm.
because then I'm going to stay the course and I'm
Hmm.
not going to get to the point where I'm eating, a pizza and a half in my car because I don't want anybody to see. Like,
Hmm.
after people left, you'll be good in front of everybody else, but you get pushed to that point that you're like, okay, now it's my turn to have something.
Yeah.
So, um, but that all or nothing mindset that definitely comes up during the holidays,
Hmm.
and then hormones come into play.
Yeah.
For women especially, whether you are you know premenopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, women have to deal with some really significant hormone shifts kind of throughout our entire life. Younger
Hmm.
women have this drive to eat. My daughter was explaining to me one day how there's just a couple days a month, and she's like, I just feel like I can't get enough to eat, and all I want to do is eat, and I can't control myself, and I want chocolate and all these things. And I'm like, welcome to my everyday for I don't know how many years. And she was almost in tears because she's like, oh, Mom, I didn't know that that's what it was like for you. And in that moment, I don't know, it was a bonding, but I also felt badly for her, that she was experiencing it in the moment, but glad that that's not what she experiences every day because it's hard. But there are things that we can do to mitigate that. And you already touched on one of them, the healthy habit of getting enough sleep.
Hmm.
Help me think of some other things that are gonna, those things that we want to do that are also gonna help us stay the course and keep our hormones in check. Things like
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah, and I think just maybe doing things to help with stress because stress and hormones are kind of, it all kind of goes together. But, um, just pausing during the holidays to, take really deep breaths and just to have those moments where you meditate on God's word or go for that, even if it's a 10-minute walk. Just do some things. Take a hot bath if you get a chance. You just, I don't know, stretching. I think the stress and the hormones, I think, really are intertwined in a lot of ways. So,
Movement in general, and of course, you and I both reach for the weights. Um, I don't think there's anything that helps me quite like weightlifting does.
Yeah.
So um, things like that. But there are things that, those external things that we talked about that are, help kind of contribute to it being a struggle during the holidays. But then we've got those internal things, those
Mhm.
places of uh, self sabotage that
Yeah.
maybe identify, you know, look at last year. What have you done in previous years that you want to be able to change? And how can you go about it? I think if we ask ourselves really good questions, we're going to
Mhm.
find solutions. And a lot of times we look outward, we want the magazine article or whatever to help fix it. But if we start asking ourselves the questions and looking at our own history, how could I have done that differently last year? How did I really want it to go? And kind of think it through. You and I can't remember the term that they used for this years ago, but the idea of, you mentioned it on our hike, the idea of, scripting ahead, creating the framework,
Mhm.
storyboarding. That's what it
Yeah.
was. Storyboarding. I knew it would come to me if I rambled on a little bit, but you want to have a framework in place. We want to focus on three primary things that we were talking about. We want to move, focus on fueling wisely and protecting our peace. And there are a lot of different ways we can talk about doing that. But we want to do it within this framework of creating a storyboard of what is going to happen. How am I
Mhm.
going to handle the circumstances I know that will come up? Because most of us know how Thanksgiving is going to play out or how it has in the past.
Right.
We have an idea of where we're going, who we're going to be with, what kind of food is going to be there. Same thing with Christmas. And, you kind of know what to expect at school because they're traditions, right? You have holiday
Sure.
traditions. So we can set up our storyboard of, all right, here's how it used to play out, but here's how it's going to play out this year. And we can plug into those
Mhm.
specific anchors of how we move, fueling ourselves, and how we're going to protect our peace.
Well, something you said made me think of, well, I know what it was when you said, I know how things are going to be at school. I just suddenly thought of that unexpected, though, Halloween gift, because I usually don't get gifts for
Yeah,
Halloween. But at
it
school
looks
on
good.
Thursday, oh, it was amazing. Uh, it wasn't even my student's mother that did it. It was a little pre-K boy. His mom, and I know I sent you a picture, but literally made a gift box or had a pretty little orange box that she filled with homemade goodies and then threw in some candies like candy corn and some other things, Skittles and such. It was beautiful, and she had tied a ribbon and a little paper pumpkin that said Happy Halloween. I mean, we were all like, there was these pretzel rods that were dipped in orange frosting, and she had little like black, orange, and white sprinkles on it. It was just crazy. She worked so hard. She just said that's her love language, gift giving and doing special things for people. It makes her feel good. And so I planned where I could enjoy. I had one pretzel rod on Thursday, and I had one on yesterday, and then Dale had the cupcake and one of the sugar cookies. So there was a pretzel rod, a sugar cookie, and some candy left. And so our youngest grandsons were here last night, as you know, and I showed Theo the box. I thought he might want to choose something, and he said, "Oh, are you giving this to me?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, if you would like to have this." And then I said, "But Theo, would you mind? Because I know that one candy corn is 7 calories." And I thought, I just need a little bit of the candy corn because I like that at Halloween and I hadn't had very many. And so I was picking some out, and he said, "Oh, that's my favorite Halloween candy, candy corn." And I said, "Oh, it is?" He said, "It is." And I put them all back. But I ate one 7 calorie candy corn. Theo just took it away.
Oh my goodness. That's helpful. I mean,
It
there's nothing
is.
There's nothing like grandma guilt or baba guilt. Uh,
Yeah.
wow.
But yeah, you're right. Usually we do know what to expect. Yeah, we really do. And I think, like you said, moving's important and fueling wisely, protecting our peace. One thing that you've talked about that I really like is doing the third protein, third vegetables, and third joy food. I love that concept, Kimmy. I think that is so cool. And you, when you say joy food, you say what matters most. I think that's a brilliant way to approach it.
Yeah, have those it's worth it foods.
Yeah, make sure it's worth it. I know we've talked about it in Weight Watchers meetings before, but it's like for me, I'm not going to choose unless it's now Jenny, my Jenny girl, my daughter-in-law. She makes some fabulous mashed potatoes. She puts sour cream and uh, I think cream cheese. They're rich and they're fabulous. But most just I do love mashed potatoes. You know I do. You know I do. But for me, it's that sweet potato casserole that we only have for Thanksgiving or Christmas. So I think it's important that we choose things that we don't usually have other times of the year. I mean, for me, that's important. I can have mashed potatoes most any day, but I'm not going to make the Pioneer Woman from scratch sweet potato casserole on just any day. I could, but I'm not going to take time.
Yeah.
But I'll love it. That'll be a joy food for me for the holidays, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, one of the things I say in workshops now, and I said it this morning, I have realized that I can have anything on Tuesday. Just kind of this concept of I can cook. I have access to ingredients. Anything I want, I can have on Tuesday if I want. It doesn't just have to be about the holidays. And I don't know, there's freedom in that because I'm like,
Yeah. Like you just said, right opposite what I did.
yeah, but but I mean that's the thing. It's what drives you. You know, you and I are very similar in a lot of things, but we're also divergent in some of the ways that we handle
Yeah.
some of these issues. Because, and I'm speaking of myself here, but I'm like, we all have to manage our own crazy, and my crazy is crazy big sometimes. And my crazy is really smart, so I have to try to outsmart um, that part of me. And sometimes it's just having these conversations of, so what if it's fudge? You can make fudge on Tuesday if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. I probably won't, but you might.
I have, but yeah, and so it's what motivates you or what resonates with whatever that mindset is in your own
Yeah.
head. And there's not one right answer for everybody out there. There's no corporation, no plan that can give you exactly what you
Mhm.
need. We've got to take ownership of our weight
Yeah.
loss journey if we're still, on a weight loss journey,
Hmm.
wellness journey, or long-term health. If I'm going to finish strong, I've got to figure out what keeps motivating me to move forward to do that, what doesn't burn me out, what I'm capable of doing, what I'm willing to do, and do that. Whether it's scientifically proven, whether it's best practice, I would rather do what I will versus what is ideal.
Yeah. I think that's important. It's like, makes me think of your phrase, what's the least I can do? You
Hmm.
know, and yeah, you got to think, you got to do it your way in a sense. You have to, take all the things that you've learned, all the experiences you've had, all the lessons learned, and you just have to come up with a plan for you. What's going to work best for me? Just like me choosing to do maintenance last year. And because I still tracked and stayed within my boundaries, I was able to fit in some really decadent things. And there was so much joy in that for me. Even last night, I ate a Halloween cupcake with the
Yeah.
grandkids because I was able to fit it into my day. And that was really nice. I ate it with a fork, ate it real slowly, and
Yeah, doing that savoring. And you know, my savor spoons come into play in the holidays. I love eating with tiny spoons. It just helps remind me to slow down. It reminds me to be
Yeah.
thankful. And I don't know, it just slows me down.
Mhm.
And the slower I eat, the longer the enjoyment lasts.
You know, we might mention too that because people are out Christmas shopping and being so busy during the holidays, it's always good to carry a healthy snack with you. I know there's been times that we've talked about how we've eaten a Built Bar before we went into a holiday party or to a big dinner, which a lot of people would say, "Why'd you use those calories?" But you and I know that if we're not starving when we get there, we're probably going to be less likely to be tempted by all the things.
Yeah, I'd rather spend 130 calories and load in 17 grams of protein to keep myself from eating an extra 500 calories or more.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's wise. Well,
Yeah,
we want to.
I was going to say, and I have what I call my purse pantry. I'm always going to have some sort of food in there. I'm going to have protein snacks readily available at
Yeah.
any point in time. Um, you know, you might go to carrying gum with you.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Always
I
have,
enjoy them.
always have your water bottle with you.
Mm-hmm.
I carry this thing with me everywhere I go. For one thing, it makes me happy because it has my pattern, it has my little logo on it. It just makes me happy to have it. And I'm used to drinking pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm drinking, I'm not necessarily going to be reaching for food all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really bad about when I'm driving. I want to eat something. I
Mm.
don't know what the deal is. I discovered that on road trips that I miss just kind of stopping
Mm.
at the convenience store, grabbing chips and a candy bar. But I can recreate that because I can keep Quest chips in the car. You know, I love the Quest crackers now. I need to look into getting some sort of affiliate code with Quest because we promote them a lot. But then, some sort of protein bar. So that's my equivalent of a candy bar and some chips and throw in my Dr. Pepper Zero. And
Mm-hmm.
I have something that's going to sustain me and nourish me versus something that's going to drive me to want to eat some more.
Yeah, great idea. And of course, we talked about moving, fueling wisely during the holidays, and then we do want to protect our peace. And we've talked about staying in the Word, how important that's going to be. One thing that I've done during the holidays along that line is do like a Christmas Advent, some kind of devotional or Bible study. Dale and I have done that together. And of course, I think it's you start on December 1st with Luke chapter 1. Some people enjoy reading through the book of Luke during the Christmas season. And, there's things you can do that are kind of holiday focused, if you will, that, keep you in the Word of God. And of course, we want to make sure that we don't become guilt ridden. If you're going to say no, say no. If you're going to say yes. But, you know, without the guilt. I think that's real important.
Absolutely. Nothing tastes good with guilt.
Yeah.
It's not a great condiment. It's not a good
No.
seasoning. Just leave it
No.
out. And
Yeah.
and that kind of touches on another thing is kind of the recovery. If you make a choice that you wish you hadn't,
Mm-hmm.
if you said yes and you wish you had said no, kind of being in that place of quick pivot and flexibility that you immediately reject the guilt and then you just go right back to your normal pacing. Because
Yes.
I don't know if have you been guilty of it in the past that if you overindulge, then the next day you almost punish yourself by I'm not going to eat anything.
I have. Yeah, I have done that. Um,
And
and then,
it's counterintuitive.
hmm
It doesn't help. It just makes you hungrier and more deprived versus
yeah. And then
just
usually I find myself doing what I did before that made me feel so guilty. Just
yeah, you
because,
jump right back to that pattern.
exactly. Yeah.
Versus if you will just go back to what your normal healthy pattern of
Mm-hmm.
eating is, focus on that protein, get some fruits and vegetables in you, focus on nourishing your body the next day instead of starving your body the
So
next.
give yourself some grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, we know we want to do the things we need to do to prevent stress eating. And we talked about that. Make sure you get plenty of rest and, do some things to relieve stress. It's going to be really important because all comes together when it comes to protecting your peace. And, really when you think about it, we say it's the most wonderful time of the year. But sometimes because of our own choosing, by making poor choices and by our approach, it can almost end up being one of the most stressful times of the year. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, there's been times when I have asked myself, on years when I've overindulged and gotten all stressed out and just, ugh, this was a crazy time. I would even question myself, like, how are you celebrating the birth of Christ by, putting yourself in this predicament? It's like, if I have to overeat to celebrate the birth of my Savior, what's that say about me? So, some things to think about. It should be a peaceful time though. It's a time of celebrating, the birth of our Savior. And that's bottom line what it is, at least for us as Christians.
Right. And
But that gets lost sometimes.
yeah, I think one of the things that can kind of steal your peace during the holidays is, you mentioned going on maintenance last year, and those of us who have done this for decade upon decade upon decade, like this has been our lifelong battle, you kind of go into the holidays again with that all or nothing. Either you set it aside and you're just eating and all bets are off, or you're going into it with this mindset of I've got to lose weight. And it's almost like every single day, that's what the focus is of our lives. At least I felt that way. That's like front and center of, how do I lose weight today? How do I
Yeah.
not gain weight today?
So, in other words, it's defined us in many ways over the years.
Yeah, unfortunately. And so peace can come by realizing that your purpose in every day isn't trying to lose weight. Shifting and having a different mindset of, I want to live in a healthy way. I want to live in a way that glorifies God. And that can include, fudge or pie or whatever, but it needs to look different. But I don't have to focus on just losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
Every day doesn't have to be about that. It can be about protecting the progress. It can be a focus of what actions am I going to take that have nothing to do with losing weight. Just, I'm doing this because this is how somebody who is healthy lives. And healthy people do enjoy certain indulgences. They
Mm-hmm.
just know how to balance. They know how to not bring yesterday into today or the next 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, it's one moment in time and you move past it and you just keep doing the healthy things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that moment of overindulgence, you don't throw your hands in the air and be like, well, I might as well not exercise today. I might as well not drink my water. I might as well not sleep. I might as well not do anything that's healthy or good because I've been bad. You just get that place of, okay, can I make my next choice a healthy one? Can I make my next choice one that I'm happy that I made? And the quicker we can do that, the more easily we're going to get through the season in peace. And we don't talk about peace and grace from the standpoint of just keep doing it. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. You get grace in order to stop doing the thing that you need the grace for, not so that you can continue in it.
Exactly.
And so you move away from that. You're like, I didn't like how that felt. I didn't like the choice that I made, so I'm going to make a different one today. thanking God that I have another day to make another choice, or another meal to make another choice, but not just carrying the weight of it all the time. Like, this is the only reason for my existence is to lose weight and to deprive myself.
Yeah. There's more to us than that.
There's a lot more to us than that, and that is why we named the podcast what we did, because we don't want that to be the most interesting thing about us. But we do have a lot of knowledge and experience to share with other women that are struggling, and so we just want to encourage everybody to have a holiday survival strategy. Go through the different steps and decide, what do you want it to look like, and how are you going to make that happen?
Yes. And the mindset's such a big part of this, having your strategy in place. And Philippians 4, 6, and 7, a couple of verses that it's going to be good to have in our holiday toolbox. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And so, just thinking about the mindset, what's something that you intentionally do or will do this holiday season to keep your mind on things above, and to keep the right mindset when it comes to your health and wellness, Kimmy?
Yeah, and ask yourself, where do I need God's peace, and pray about that. Bring that to Him. Where do I need strength? Where do I need help? And don't assume that you just have to do it through willpower. You can call upon the name of the Lord for whatever you have need of, and maybe you write a verse. You can change the lock screen on your phone. You could get a lovely little Christmassy background and have your verse for the holidays that's going to anchor you to what your intentions are. Whether it's, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it as unto the Lord, or just reminding yourself that He's the one that you can look to for help. But pick something, a verse, a saying, something that'll just kind of remind you of the plan that you make, that will trigger, now wait a second, I have different intentions this holiday season. Yet every time you pick up your phone, you see it in front of you. That might be a good prompt.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. And you were talking about storyboarding earlier, that we even talked about it on our last hiking trip. Another way to focus on keeping the peace and being in the right mindset for me is when I have, a holiday party coming up or family meal, whatever it might be. I can actually write a script out, whether I do it, with pen and paper, or just really give it some thought in my mind. But, see how you want it to go, how you want it to play out, and then practice it in your mind over and over. This is how I see it play out. And it really does help to stick to the plan you have for yourself when you've already seen yourself do it well.
Mm-hmm.
That helps with my peace for sure, helping me to carry out my plan successfully.
Yeah.
You know what? Every time you carry out your plan successfully, it really gives you the boost and the confidence to do the same thing with the next event that comes up. It's like, oh, wow, that went well. I can do that again.
Yeah, it builds your confidence.
Yes.
And practicing can be really good. If you have a food pusher in your life, practice saying no before you are in front of them.
Yes.
Practice, what you're going to tell them when, somebody does bring you something that you're like, okay, I appreciate this, but I don't even like that type of sweet thing. So I'm not gonna eat that type of pie just because somebody puts it in front of me. Where you say thank you and I'll take it home with me, or whatever, but you have some sort of something scripted that makes it where you're not sitting there eating something you don't like, or eating something that you don't really want in the moment, or
Right.
one of the ways I put it, you don't want to be in a situation where the food is choosing you instead of you choosing the food, because that makes all the difference in the world.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So, are there any more points that we need to cover? I mean, I think we've given a good overview of kind of how to structure your holiday survival plan. Just identify the areas with your eating, with your stress and your mindset, with your activity. What are you going to continue through the holidays? What is the least you can do? What are your goals? Do you want to maintain and protect your progress? Are you going to go into the holiday season trying to lose? And whatever choice you make, how are you going to make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to respond if there's a setback? And just determine, I'm not going to feel guilty or shameful. I'm going to operate in grace. I'm going to stay in a place of peace. I mean, I can't tell you how many years I felt like I was battling food during the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to battle my blessings.
Mm-mm.
It's the enemy stealing some of the joy of the holiday. It is okay to have food because it tastes good. Again, it's all or nothing when we're like, oh, I only eat to nourish myself. It's like, well, if you can live like that, but I can't. I want to eat to enjoy. Sometimes I'm going to eat simply because it tastes good and I want it. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as we're not overdoing it, as long as we're injuring ourselves, in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay for me to, eat 3 pounds of fudge in a day. That's not
Mm-hmm.
good for anybody. It's not helpful. But having 3 pieces of fudge in a day that's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's like in the Bible, it says clearly that gluttony is a sin, but it also says to eat with thanksgiving, with a thankful heart.
Yeah, and have a
So,
little bit of honey, but not too much.
yeah, exactly. And so, self-control, one of the fruits of the Spirit, enjoy your blessings, but with control. The Holy Spirit enables us to do that.
Absolutely. And there really is more to us than just this battle with food. So get on the social media, get in Dana's group and my group on Facebook, and let us know, how are you going to plan your holiday. Make a comment on this video. Like I said, we're going to start trying to do this on YouTube so that people can kind of experience the podcast in a different way. We can create more community where people are interacting. Share your best tips and trips, your best tips and trips. That's not what I meant to say. Tips and tricks. Although we would like to hear about any upcoming trips you have. But share those things. If you've got a swap that you love, a product, something that helps you to not go overboard on the sweets, let us know what it is, because not everybody's going to know about every tool that you know about. We need to crowdsource this thing so we can be more successful. So Bob, I'm going to give you the last word. Anything else you want to tell everybody?
Oh, I think one thing would be, let's enjoy the Thanksgiving season. I know I said November 1st, it feels like Christmas to a lot of people, but I don't know. I love Thanksgiving and I love the month of November. And let's just really focus on gratitude and all the things we have to be thankful for, and honor Christ with our thankful heart, and then have the best Christmas season ever. It's just a really wonderful time of the year. And I hope it didn't sound like we were hopping over Thanksgiving to dive into Christmas. It all just kind of goes together. It seems to start on Halloween and go to the first of the year. But we have so much to be thankful for. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, we are so blessed. Just thankful that we could have this time together. And I'm thankful for our journeys. Even with, we've had ups and downs, but this is who we are. We're unique. God made us to, I don't know, I guess everybody has something that they hate to call it a struggle, but I don't know. There really is joy in the journey. There really is. And I'm thankful for our journey. And so I'm thankful for you, thankful for our podcast.
Me too. I was trying not to have the last word, so you're going to have to say something after I said this.
Well, I'll just say there's always more. We'll see you next time.